And I'm live. I don't know if anybody's joining. It kind of gave last minute notice, but it is what it is. So I'm going to give a demonstration of how I do an edit in DaVinci Resolve for our reaction videos. Going to give kind of like a brief rundown. I can't really see through the Meld software the chat in YouTube. So if you want to ask me questions, it might be best if you go to twitch.tv/rope podcast and go there, because those conversations I can see in the Meld software. And if anyone knows how to do that with YouTube and in Meld, let me know. I don't use OBS, I'm using the Meld software. So still learning the tips and tricks with that. I tried to do some digging to find out how to get YouTube's um, chat in the window so I could see it, and I haven't been able to get it to work. So, anyhow, um, this is being recorded. So, if you didn't see it live, I will be putting it up as a recast. Again, I do have the Twitch chat turned on. So, if you want to follow me there, you definitely can. Um, but I kind of want to explain how I look at our reaction videos and the processes I go through when not only editing them, but in recording of them. So um, we record all of our, and I have to explain this. Albert is in Mexico. He's down in Puebla, Mexico. So much farther away from where I am here in California. So we're not in the same locale. So it's not like we're sitting side by side to do this. So the only way we can definitely accomplish this, the easiest way we can do it is through Zoom. So we end up doing our recordings through Zoom. I end up playing the movie locally and sharing the window with him through Zoom so he's able to watch it and comment on it. But because of that, there is about 3 to 5 second delay between what I'm seeing and what he's seeing. So if it's ever seemed like our connection is slightly off, or his commentary, or he reacts almost 5 seconds later than I do, that's why. I'm assuming it's through the transmission of the video down to where he is, and he gets it a few seconds later than what I'm seeing. So I always have to keep that in mind when he's asking questions or when he's reacting to something. I need to give him a beat or two before I can comment on what he's going to comment on. So I have to keep that in mind at all times. So if you're doing a reaction with someone who is not in your locale, or you're not sitting side by side in the same room, then Zoom is probably the only way to go, because I don't think Skype is around anymore. I think they finally shuttered. So I think Zoom is like one of the best ways to do it. I know Riverside.fm does podcasting and such, but I've tried using their stuff, and it had some weirdness to it. So it wasn't really conducive. We tried it. We actually were a full subscriber to it, and it did work, but there were times when it just was a little wonky, and it was a little bit harder to deal with our guests who we interview. It just, people have used Zoom more, so it just made more sense to stick with that platform. But whatever you decide to do, just know that you've got to coordinate. If you're doing it with a remote person from where you are, you've got to figure out the architecture of how you're going to record the entire episode together. Okay. So, how I do it is that I have all the movies in my music library. I'm a media whore, self confessed media whore. I have thousands and thousands of films, and I'm not bullshitting you. If I went up and showed you the running list, we'd be clicking and scrolling for days. Um, and in that, I have close to, has to be close to 1,000 queer movies, not TV shows, but just queer movies. And then I have probably a good couple hundred TV shows that I've collected over the years. So, like I said, I'm a media whore. If I hear wind of something queer, I will most definitely get my little mittens on it. So there's that. We usually allow 2 hours for our reaction recordings. Sometimes we go a bit over, sometimes it's less if the movie's like only an hour and a half, or we're doing 2 1 hour series, TV series reactions, or uh, half-hour episodes like we do with the comedies. I think we do Grace and Frankie, One Day at a Time, Cucumber Banana, and Big Boys. Those are our four that we do in one session on a given Friday. So for those, we'll definitely, put them all together. And then I think we do 2 weeks of 1 hour recordings of 1 hour TV series. Oh, Only Murders in the Building. That's the other one we're doing. I have now just recently started because we've been recording reactions to The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is done by Amy Sherman Palladino and her husband Daniel. And Albert is enjoying that show so much. He loves the writing. He loves the characters. He's a big fan of Mrs. Maisel. That I decided to show him the first episode of Etoile, which is their new series that deals with the world of professional ballet, and that it takes place in New York and in Paris, and they are pulling out all the stops. They don't do Vancouver for Paris or Vancouver for New York. No, they actually are filming in New York, and then the part that takes place in Paris, they're filming it in Paris. So they are spending the bucks in doing the show and giving you the full Monty of how these two A-level ballet houses work. And it's with the same Palladino flair for writing. The dialogue is fast and at a brisk pace. If you've never watched Mrs. Maisel or Gilmore Girls, or even their short-lived other ballet show they did called Bunheads, they all have this repetitive or very, very fast talking, almost like a Woody Allen movie, but on steroids. I mean, it just faster, faster, faster. That's all the notes that all of the actors universally say is when you're on a Palladino show, it's faster. Say your lines faster, say your lines faster. And it just comes at you like a bullet train. So when I saw Etoile came up and it was their new thing on ballet, I thought, oh, I should preview this and see if it's something I thought Albert might be interested in. Now, Albert didn't have much exposure to the ballet world. So I ended up showing him early last year. We filmed through the month of February. We filmed three Tchaikovsky pieces, first one being the documentary on Tchaikovsky himself and his queer relationships and his queer life that Russia does its very best to try and oppress. But it was a docudrama, so it was part documentary, part drama. And he really enjoyed that, and then fell into, we did the gay version of Swan Lake, which was put on by the Matthew Bourne Company out of Britain. And I showed him the original cast, and there was a reason behind that because the next film we watched was Billy Elliot. And I had literally done these three different reactions to get the one moment I knew was coming in Billy Elliot. So there, if you want to see what that all goes through, just go watch those three Valentines reactions that I posted, where we do the Tchaikovsky life story, then we do the Gay Swan Lake version by Matthew Bourne's company, and then we do Billy Elliot. And we got to the final moment where I had queued all this up for those three separate reaction videos to get to this one scene that I knew was going to blow Albert's mind. And then we had a major technical failure in the recording. So that's my other note for you is in recordings, you definitely want to bear it in mind that you have to have some leeway for technical problems. um, you can in the Billy Elliot one where I got to the moment where I kept my mouth shut, I bit my tongue, not wanting to leak any information. I wanted his honest reaction to the connection between all three of these reactions. And when it happened, his camera glitched, but you can hear him physically say the things that I wanted as the reaction. So it's kind of disjointed, but it was a one-time moment thing. We couldn't go back and redo it because it wouldn't have been as honest. So when you get to that moment in Billy Elliot, and it's at the very end of the movie, you will hear Albert lose his shit in the reactions. But you can't. Is his visual is kind of chunky. It doesn't really flow very easily. Anyways, all of that to say that when I do the Zoom reaction recordings with Albert, you do have to have some leeway for, you know, technical errors if they arise. Sometimes his camera is stuttered, sometimes my throughput in the internet. And actually, I should keep an eye on this because the last time I did a simulcast, I had a problem with YouTube portion. It looks like I'm doing okay. All right. Um, I don't know if anybody's in on the YouTube side. We'll see, but definitely I'm recording it so I can recast it later. If you're so interested in learning about how I do these editing. So here's the deal. I'm going to switch now to my DaVinci Resolve application. What I do want to explain before we go into it is two things. One, what I'm about to show you has some specificity in DaVinci Resolve, but you can apply it to other NLE editors. So, like Adobe Premiere, probably CapCut to some degree, although their interface is kind of weird. I tried playing with it and it was just a little too wonky for me. Might be great on the phone, but as a desktop app, it was a little too weird. But what I will say is that in doing this, what I'm about to show you, I want you to realize that some of the things I will say and I will demonstrate um, you may have to do it a different way to achieve the same thing in Premiere or in Final Cut Pro or in CapCut, but the concepts should be interchangeable. You should be able to think about it in the sort of direction that I'm going with. Okay, so let me switch over to our demo. So here is the layout that I have. This is a template that I've built, and you can't really see it in the screenshot that I have, but just above these curtains, it has the name of the file and it says in red, read only. And that's because I created this template. This is a bare bones basic template. And this is how I start off every time I do a new reaction. I have in my settings over here, my master grouping here, this upper left hand corner, is where I have all my folders already set up. And so I've got right now the first installment of Etoile, which is the one we're going to be doing the editing for. Sorry, hold on. My cat is trying to get over on her shelf and she's going to make a mess. There you go, Taki. Now you can come over here and lay down. Be a good girl. Hopefully you won't get a video bomb out of her. But anyhow, the uh, the I have in this template, I've already set up the raw folder where I bring in the raw footage, any clips or any assets that I'm going to import that I will use. I will have those stored here. I have my rendered clips if I have to pre-render things in order to bring them in so they render fully in a much faster pace. I will do that. Sometimes I will use rendered clips already if I'm doing like a not a reaction, but more of like a when we do our spotlight videos, when I do like political commentary, I will bring rendered clips and I will place them in this folder. So that way, when I'm doing the editing, I know which clips I'm referencing and I pull them in and use them on the timeline. The timelines are here. I have 3 that I've set up. I have 2 that are, and initially I build these as full unedited, quote unquote. Sorry, my cat keeps jumping and she's touching my touchpad and it is signaling things. Sorry about that. Let me get back to where I was. Um, Taki, you're going to be a menace today, aren't you? All right. So I have this built so that anytime I open up this template, I have my timelines already set up. I have all the folders set up. All I have to do is bring in the raw files from the Zoom recording. So importing, they're all basically the same in any of the NLEs. I've used all three. I've not used Avid or Vegas as an editor, and I don't know how prolific they are now. I know they had their heyday back in the day, but I think the three biggies right now are Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, and DaVinci. I will say, as a point of clarity, I am using DaVinci Resolve's studio version. So there are things that are available to me in the studio version that are not available in the free version. Now, I will tell you that when I first started with DaVinci, I just used the free version. And to be quite honest, 99% of what I wanted to do was covered by the free version. As you really start to develop your skills, you're going to actually want to try new things and try using some of the AI they've built into it. And a good portion of that is only on the studio side. Now, the difference between the free version, obviously, the free is free and it legitimately is free. They don't hold you back. They don't give you like teaser. You can make a 1 minute video with the free version. No, you can make a full, 2 hour reaction or whatever. It is a fully functional free version. The bells and whistles that come with the studio version are advantageous, but probably only after you've been using the app for quite a while and feel really comfortable with it and want to spread your wings a little further into the more advanced areas. Then I would invest in the studio version. The studio version, as of this writing, I believe is still $299. It is a one-time purchase. Um, there has been some speculation now with Resolve 20, which I'm running the public beta right now, that with the full version of 20, there may be an upgrade fee, which a lot of people are kind of hemming and hawing and like, well, you said it was a one-time purchase for Studio and yada yada yada. Well, we have gotten a ton of updates for free for Studio. So on one hand, I can see that people want to hold them to their original agreement, and I can definitely see the positives in that. But I also understand how business runs, and I know that they've put a lot of work into really bringing some wonderful tools to the tool set. So I'm kind of leaning of the opinion that if they charge, a nominal fee, now it's another $299, I might have more to say on the matter. But if it's like a $60 or $75 fee or something like that, to take you to the next generative level of like all the version 20s for the next 10 years, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I would prefer to invest in a company that I think has my back from a creator standpoint. And so this is me just saying I love DaVinci Resolve. It took me a little while to get used to it because I was using Premiere before, and I have used Final Cut Pro in the past. But I just find now that I'm really comfortable in DaVinci Resolve. There's a ton of tutorials out there about how to use the app, so I'm not going to really dive in on this version with dealing with um, the whole uh, how does DaVinci work. I'm going to kind of walk through, and I may mention things from time to time, but I'm not here to describe how to use DaVinci Resolve. I'm more here to talk about the process I go through in editing a episode of our reactions. Okay, so I have, with all of that said, I'm going to first. I'm going to save the project as, because I'm in read only mode, and I will save this as at 12, if I can type, S01. All right, now it is been labeled, so it's no longer in read-only format, so everything that I do from here on is in the at 12 project file that I've created. And how DaVinci Resolve does it is it has a database that it runs that keeps track of where all these things are, but you don't have to have everything in one place. As long as you point to it within the media pool of DaVinci, it will keep track of it. Now, if you rename a folder, like a hierarchical folder, and you rename the folder, it's going to break that connection, and you've got to go back and relink it. But there is an icon that runs along the toolbar along the top that will have like a link, like two chain links, and that those chain links will suddenly be broken, and that's giving you a warning that something in your list, something in your media pool is broken, or in your power bins. Now, power bins are a lifesaver for me. I've got to actually change my workspace. Give me just a second here because this is not my normal layout. There we go. Let me see if I need to change any of that for you guys. Kind of looking between two different applications settings to make sure that you're able to see it all. Okay, looks like I'm good here. All right, so what I've got here is I've got the different areas here. There is my upper portion here, which is my current media pool that I'm working with. This is the project file assets. Then underneath that, I have what's called power bins, and it's kind of like a way for you to create folders and hierarchical kind of context to things you use all the time. So especially like for branded channels like Rote, I have a Rote um, directory that has all the things I constantly use over and over and over again, like the fly-ins of the logos, this Rote reactions title work you see here. That's a separate file. So I have all these individual pieces that I regularly use on an ongoing basis. So I put them in what's called a power bin in DaVinci Resolve, and that just allows me across multiple project files to be able to access those resources very quickly to drag them into my timeline. I don't have to go hunting and do an import each individual time to bring those in. They'll sit in my power bins, and those power bins keep track of where they are on my separate hard drives. That is another point I want to make. If you get into doing reactions and stuff, get yourself some large hard drives. You're going to need space. And especially if you are using it to hold archival stuff that you've done in the past, you're going to want to have a repository where you're putting a lot of that stuff up, and you're probably going to want to back it up to the cloud or some other way. I know I have a friend of a friend actually, who his entire backup system is plugging in a thumb drive, and then no, he'll plug in a Y connector for two thumb drives, but that one will have a separate Y connector. So it's just like this tree of thumb drives, and that's their version of backup. And it's really kind of almost magical because it looks like a huge lit Christmas tree as things get written to these thumbnail drives that are on Y splitters. It's kind of hysterical. Anyways, so I just kind of wanted to explain that what how our power bins are used. Like a lot of these things here are things that I use on an ongoing basis. I have a separate one for just the reaction stuff that I do. So this is the folder I tend to use the most for doing reactions. Um, and then down below here is the standard toolbox, which has all of the built-in effects that come with DaVinci Resolve. Some are studio only, and if you pull on one that's a studio only, you'll get like a watermark or an X, I think, that displays on it, just letting you know, well, you can kind of play with this, but you're not going to be able to render it out because it's a studio part of the application. And then below that, I have a favorites bin, which is different than the power bins in that What this is that it allows me to go in and I can star, as you see here, this cross dissolve. I'll use cross dissolve a lot. So I start it as a favorite, and then it puts it in the same category as it would appear in the toolbox. It's just a shortened list. So when I go in here, I've got a much shorter list than the full toolbox, which can go on and on forever and ever. So it's a way of isolating those things that you tend to use the most. So that's the favorites area. So master is your project files of the project you're currently working on. Power bins are the media files and resource files that you use across multiple projects, not just the one you're in now. That is your repository of quick grab items that you want to have available to you no matter what project you're working on. Then you have the toolbox area down below here, which has the standard, basically the full list of all of the tools available to you in the editing mode on DaVinci Resolve. And then below that is your favorites, your starred favorites, which is a subset of the main tool set. You kind of are just saying of all of these, these are my favorites. These are the ones I want to have quick access to. I don't want to have to go scrolling to find that one or do a search and having to type the name in or what have you. There are search boxes that you can put in to type something in here, and it will bring up in the second column what it found within the directory that you're looking in. But it'll be like in this case, if I type something in here, it's only going to look in video transitions because that's the list I'm currently looking for that I'm typing in. If I went to the top and did toolbox, then it would look across the entire toolbox for whatever matching word that I put in there. So just be aware of that. But like I said, I end up starring several things that I know I use. And the nice part is that when you roll over these things, you can kind of see how they work, which is kind of a nifty little thing. I know you can do that in Adobe Premiere. I'm not sure if you can preview that in Final Cut. I'm pretty sure you can. All the apps tend to behave the same way, which is why I say conceptually, what I'm showing you and what I walk through here are things you can apply to Premiere or to Final Cut Pro or whatever NLE program you're using. And that means nonlinear editor. So, whatever app you're using, these concepts should still kind of work. Okay, so let's get to some actual editing. Okay, what I have here, and I'm just using my backwards and forwards arrow. I'm going to move forward in this timeline so that you can kind of see how this moves. So let me get okay, so I'm stepping through frame by frame, and this is the proscenium. Now, I come from the world of theater, so I wanted to give a movie theater like experience in this whole thing. One of the things you need to do before beginning editing anything is think of how you want to present it. For me, it was that's a natural thing to go because I'm from the world of theater, and I know movies are shown in theaters and such. I wanted to use the concept of a proscenium to actually show our reactions. So I have the red velvet curtains because back in the day, you used to always have curtains covering the screen. Not like today where you walk in and the screen is just there. Back in the day, when I grew up, you actually had curtains in front of it that would part and then you would see the screen. So in this case, I kind of wanted to hark back to those old days. So I have this scenario where I have our names coming in, they fly in here under our pictures. When I drag our video down in there, you'll kind of see how I get this to work. But I want to talk to you conceptually about how it's built. Okay, so I'm going to step forward a bit. Okay, this is the interface that I've created or that I came up with to make it familiar to my viewers. So you have This hand represents the proscenium. The proscenium is this arch where the screen is sitting. It's that area where the curtains are on either side. There's house seats that people would sit in an audience to look at whatever action is going on stage. Well, the proscenium is that arch that separates the audience from whatever's happening as the form of entertainment. So I wanted to use the theatrical proscenium as the viewpoint, mostly because it's a familiar concept. Everybody can identify with it in this modern age. It has been around since theater has been around. I don't know that the Greeks actually used it, I think, but it is definitely a Greek name, a Greek word, a Latin word that came from the old cultures. Um, and so the proscenium is my interface. This is what I'm using. So when I built this, the layers that I have here, you'll see here, this proscenium, and actually you can color the, let's make this line so we can see this is where the dividing line is. So everything above this layer, which is the theater picture that I have labeled in its in video channel 8, video track 8, I have here, this is the dividing line between what is in front of the proscenium with the movie screen, and the everything here is like the house seats and it'll be the pictures of Albert and I watching, this side by side on either side of the screen. So the proscenium is the theater pick here. And as you can see in this bar here, you see it has a bright green color. Well, what I've done is that I'm using it and then I do what's called, I chroma keyed out that bright, vibrant green. And basically, I just said, if you see this color, make it invisible. Just turn its alpha off. So it's now being able to be seen through. So everything underneath these tracks that I'm clicking through right here, all of this stuff sits behind that proscenium layer where the theater screen is. So everything I show is going to be masked off by that green area you see here in the pic. And I'll just bring up the pic so you can see what it kind of looks like when we're looking at it. Let me go to a double view here. Um, so let me find my theater picture. Where is it? Reactions title, movie title. Alrighty. I know I have it here. Close curtain, open curtain, empty theater. Here it is. So this is what the picture originally looks like. This is the area that I key. So everything that is in that green area, that is what now is invisible. It has the alpha channel of it has been taken out. So it's basically the green is now going to be see-through. So any layer I put underneath this one track here where the theater picture is, that is all going to be masked off by this area that is in green in the preview window that I have here on the left hand side of this dual screen setup. So that's something to keep in mind. You kind of have to establish in your head or even down on paper. It's probably a good idea to draw it out on paper so you can get it layered in your head so you know how to build your separate tracks and the order that they go. The very first track, track 1 here, says banner, and I'll show you what that means in a moment. But that's going to be the lowest layer. That's going to be the layer that is furthest away from the audience, from the camera looking at our reaction video. So that's the very, very back. That would be like the back wall of a theater. If you were looking at a live theater stage, that would be the back wall. Then I have the next track up, which says movie or EP. And that's where the movie file that will play in this open square area, this green area that you're seeing here in the preview window. That's where the movie will play. And I scale it so that the whole video fits into that rectangular area. Then I have adjustment layer, which is what I use this for, is to create some of the vignetting. So, like you see here, it's a little dark around the edges. I already have a vignette on this picture itself. I did it in Photoshop, but if you notice in the full version, it's even darker still. Well, that's what this adjustment clip is doing. Basically, an adjustment clip is a way to make modifications to everything below where you put in the adjustment layer. You can basically have everything that you put in that adjustment layer down and have it affect every layer below it. So in this case, because it's the movie that I'm playing under it, and there's a banner layer here, which is actually like my title card, and I'll show you what that means in a minute. But basically, this is a way of adjusting, making modifications to it, where I'm not having to do it every time I bring in a movie. This adjustment layer sits here, and it has all these parameters already set up. And in this case, yeah, it's the vignette that I have over here under the effects area. I've already pre-programmed how I want it to affect the lower layers. So in my template, I just have the layer sitting there so that whatever I put underneath it, it's going to automatically be affected by that what that adjustment layer says the lower layers must abide by. So it's going to modify that for the viewer. Okay. Then above that, I have the Rote podcast, the Rote Reactions logo file, and I use that as a watermark, and I'll show you how the watermark is applied when we get to it. Then I have what's called the Pride Ellipse, and that's this rainbow colored, four colors around the outside with the ellipse kind of see through in that area. So I created that in Photoshop, and I ended up taking out the middle part, and then I just have it blend from whatever colors are along the side here to black on the inside, and so it's see through. So that's how the movie file, which again, whoops, is below. Let me reset that. Is below the all of these layers. So the movie's sitting down here. So whatever is above it will affect how you see it through this movie screen that I've now put up here as the barrier between all of this backstage stuff and then all of the front stage stuff that is in front of the proscenium picture here I have of the theater. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If not, comment down below and I'll try to explain better. Then I have what's an element here called the pride bar. That's this bar that runs through the middle here. It's just basically the same color scheme. It's a four color scheme that turns into the full spectrum of the rainbow as the colors meld along the sides and on the top and bottom. You get the red, orange, yellow, then the green going to blue and blue into purple. So that's how you get the rainbow colors all the way around. So I have this pride bar here, which is basically the same thing, just squashed down, and it creates a bar through the middle. On top of that, I have what I call our copyright disclaimer, where I say that I'm using only these images as a means of reference and commentary, but that I do not claim any ownership of what I am showing. So that is something that if you're going to do reactions, make sure you have that displayed somewhere, that you are mindful of how much of the original copyrighted work you're using, because YouTube is very good about finding out how much you're using, and then they will hit you with copyright strikes. And you only get, like baseball, you only get three, and then you're out for good. So you want to be really mindful about that. Above the picture, there is one item here, and I don't know, I'll turn it off and on so you can kind of see where it is. It's this little banner of our Rote logo that I put on the flooring, and then I kind of used the pitch and yaw to get it to lay flat against what would be perceived as the flooring of the stage area below the proscenium of the movie screen. The next channel up or track above it is where the curtains live. This is where, as we go through, the curtains will part and they will reveal the proscenium and everything that's underneath it. You won't see anything here because typically what I have here in the banner layer down below is the title card. And in fact, let's just bring that in. Let me bring that in, and I'll show you what I can do it right now. Import media, and then we'll go to, oh, where do I have it? Reactions, I think. Yeah. Series at 12. It's not in there. Okay. I know I pulled it. Maybe it's actually in the series folder. No. Um, I know I pulled a copy of it. Let me go to QueerSay maybe? Artwork. No. Aha. No, that's that. No, no, it's not there. Do I have it here? Oh, for goodness sakes, when push comes to shove. There we go. There it is. All right, now I've got the picture. Okay, so sorry about all of that delay, but took me a while to realize where the hell I have it. So now I will bring the picture down if my cat will lie down so I can see the timeline. Taki, lie down. Be a good girl. Lie down. Um, so I'll bring this down here and I'll put it here. And now you can see how it actually flows into it. Now I've got to resize it. So I come over here to the transform tools and I'll scale it down until I see where it is actually. I want a bit more of that, so we may have to end up making it side. Now you'll see this checkerboarding on either side. I have it set up so that it shows me what is truly transparent back there. However, when I render this, it will actually turn this checkerboard into black. So basically, this picture will be sitting on top of black. So I'm okay with it not quite going end to end. I could manipulate this and kind of take it into Photoshop and have it do its little magic, through AI and stuff. But it's really not worth it at this point. So I just want to center it and make sure that it's sitting where it needs to be. So when the curtain opens, let me put this and make sure it's there present for it. So when I play it back, and it starts to push through, and you will see how it is actually opening up, and you'll see that it reveals our title card that's already on screen so that the viewer already knows what it is that they will be watching along with us. So that's kind of how I build this. So again, the proscenium, this green track right here, which is the theater picture, is masking everything that's going on backstage. So only what is in this bright green area in the picture here is what's being allowed to be seen through it. So as the curtains part and you end up with the full proscenium with the title picture, you're able to see how the whole process works. That the area that I've keyed out, this bright green, I've keyed out and said, let it be see through. Now, whatever I put underneath that layer that is this theater picture, that is what shows up behind it. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Again, let me know in comments if you have any kind of question about that. All right, so going on. So let's put, we now have our title card in, and actually I'm going to zero this down so I can copy this and pull it over to the other side. Holding down the Option key, I can drag a copy without displacing the other one. And I can slap it over here because I will need it at the end of the episode as well. Okay, so what I've done in this series one is that I pretty much set aside Oh wait, this is the movie. I'm sorry, I want to be on this one. My bad. Let's do this again. I was in the wrong one. I was not working in the I was working in the movie timeline, not the series timeline. And the reason why I have two separate ones is because the movie one I give about 2 hours and 30 minutes as enough play that most movies are around 1 hour to 2.5 hours. They're between that gamut. So I tend to have one built for movies. So when I slap it in, I don't have to adjust a bunch of things at the end to push them out where they need to be. Whereas the most a TV episode is going to be about an hour. So if I put if I have a separate template within my project folder that has one built already for television, then you'll see around the 58-minute mark, I already have it preset with my template with all of my, you know, setup with the layers that I've explained thus far. They're all still there. They're ready to rock and roll. So all I have to do is place the movie file in there, and Albert and I in our respective points on the screen, and then I can kind of just quickly finish up the edit and then render it out. So it's actually not too bad of a process here. Let me just make sure I have that. No, I don't. Okay. So I have to copy this again, holding down the Option key, dragging, and I put a copy of it out here that I will be using when we get to the end of the edit. Okay, so up here I have little markers that tell me what's happening at given points. I no longer show that, so that can go away. So I'll spread these out so that way we can see the all of the individual items much easier for the editing. Okay, so in the beginning, we have this fade in, and it goes through this little animation that I've adapted to have rote reactions logo fly in with some music. And then we come to my first marker, which says host start. So, how does this happen? If we go back to our original raw files, you will see the Zoom file here. And then I had separate tracks for each one of the participants. The bottom one is the movie track, the episode track. So it'll either be the TV series episode or the movie that we reacted to. That'll be its sound. Then there's my track. I'm on the Rote Podcast track. And then Albert has his own that we pull into the various audio tracks. So I can then manipulate them and key them or EQ them in a way that they're to their best advantage from an audio standpoint. So I don't just use the audio track that's already blended because I want to be able to control the audio for them. And in our audio tracks, the only tracks that are stereo are the episode track and the intro and outro, which is our music bed. So those are the two stereo tracks. Albert and I are mono because we don't really have to have stereo, and having all stereo tracks makes your file larger when you go to render out. So if it's just one voice and it can be played the same in both ears, and just use a mono track. It's just easier to manage. So the only stereo tracks I have are the TV and the music bed episode or the movie episode, depending upon what it is I'm editing, but only those are stereo. The rest are all mono because it's just one speaking voice. So there's no need to have panning and all that stuff if it's just commentary. So it's just a much easier way of doing it. Okay, so I'm at the first marker, which says host start. So I scroll up till I see Albert's name and my name here, and I know this is where I'm supposed to bring in the video file. So I let me go back to my dual setup here, double click that to put it in the preview. I grab only the movie portion of it using these two options down here. And I know in Final Cut Pro, you kind of see it this way. I'm trying to remember how you do it in Premiere. Well, you Premiere heads out there, I'm sure you know how to do it. But basically, I just want to bring the videos in separately because I want to pull those audio files I have in the media pool. I want to pull those up individually and put them individually on their own separate tracks. So because of that, I don't want to bring it in en masse and just have it drop everything. So I bring it into the preview window so I can grab just the video, and I drag it out and I put it so that it aligns and snaps to my marker so I know where everything's beginning. Then once I do it once, it's the same file for all three segments. So I just hold my option key down and I'm able to duplicate it and have it placed the same place. Scroll down to the bottom, and on the movie track here, track number 2, above where this intro is, I'll put in another copy of the movie file. So now all three, the movie or episode track, this is an episode because we're doing a 12, the TV series. And then we have Albert's and my tracks here. So all three tracks are in. Now I need to put in the sound. So we'll first put in the episode 1, and we'll make sure that it matches up. And how it matches up, if you notice as I move this around here, you see those little double white points on the movie track, the actual video track. It's telling me you're lined up. If you can release here and it'll be lined up together. That once I know they're lined up, I will click them both. Whoops, I only want those 2 tracks. Hold down the command key, or on the Windows one, I think it's the Windows key. I'm not quite sure. Maybe control, might be control key. And select both of them, and then right click and say link the clips. So now the audio for the movie or the TV series episode is now tied to the video that will be displaying that. So I know those two are in sync with each other. Now I'll scroll up to where the track for Albert and I are, and I will put in mine first. And again, you see the little double arrows on the top and bottom of the video tracks, and then the audio down below, you know, they're all lined up. So then you just release there. And then I want to go ahead and link up the 2. So I will hold the command key or control key on a Windows machine, right click and say link clips. Okay, this is how I'm doing the individual audio to their respective video tracks. Okay, now doing finally, bringing in Albert's. And again, they're all lining up, the double arrows on each one of the tracks. So I know they're all matching. Let go, and command control for Windows, command for Apple, link the clips. And now all 3 video tracks of the recording from Zoom are now all in the timeline, and they are all synced. So the next thing I have to do is I have to wait a tiny bit for the audio to actually render the wave file so I can see where I do the count in of 3, 2, 1. And I know that's where the actual recording begins. So while that does that, I'm going to get rid of our dual thing here so we can see a bit better. And I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger so that way we can see all of that. I'll drag this down so we see more of the video tracks. Okay, so everything is set. I have the movie file sitting here. I have the banner that will fly, the title card that will fly when the curtains open. So here I have the host starting position. This is where we fade in and start talking. Here is where the IDs start to fly in. So when you're here and the IDs start to play, you'll see they start, the little sparkly start to happen. That is the ID. If you'll see here, you can see the 3 separate areas of the recording from the Zoom call that I did. Albert is up above me, then there's me, and then over to the other side of us is the actual episode track, the episode of, in this case, Étoile, that we're going to be editing. Okay, so this is the file that I'm working with basically on 3 separate layers, and I'm just going to isolate each one of us into a separate layer so that it's only showing that portion of this complete screen in a given area on the movie file. Okay, so in this one, I'm going to start with making Albert and I into our iconic little circles, which is done through our effects. Here we go. I have from, I believe this is It's either Patrick Sterling or it is Mr. Alex Tech. It's one of the two. It's one of their fusion effects that I got, and I really like using it. It's very easy to use, just simple drag and drop, and then the masking already happens. And see, boom, now I've got two masks of the files that are represented. I come over to the effects area where it has now dropped all the controls for it. I will move the center of the circle, and I should actually turn on my parameters so I can see what safe zones there are. So this is the action field. So anything inside the big box on the outside is the action field. Then you've got the title area, which is the next box in, and then the center. So you've got all of these set up so that you know what your parameters are. So what I'm doing is I'm moving the center of the circle mask area to the area I want it to live for the first part of this video. Then I go and take the one that's going to be mine and I move it over and see, voila, look, there I am. And so that's how I center this off. Okay. Now I need to make Albert appear in the one that's over here in black, and I need to make sure mine is fully enclosed in the one that's here on the right. How do I do that? Well, the easiest way is I'll go back to my video parameters and I will increase, and it's usually because of the way that Zoom sizes the participants in as opposed to what is being shared, the media that's being shared. It's usually almost double the size of what your video is standard coming in, which is sometimes why we appear, not I don't want to say hazy or out of focus, but just not 4K quality, because what it's doing is I'm basically stretching the pixels to make it fit. So I will change this to, let's try 1.8, and then I will slide it over to bring Albert into his area. See, I'm already filling up that bubble. Slide it down so that it's just Albert. Put Albert over here. Try to center him in. And then in mine, I will just, because I'm pretty much there, I will do the same sizing. So I did 1.8, I'll do 1.8 here. And then I will slide him over and put me in the center. And if I go way up high, you'll see there's the bottom of the actual picture of what it was recording for me. So it does have a limit of what it's displaying. It displays what your camera recorded and gave them as the video file. So obviously I don't want this portion to show. So I will take it and I will put it down to where it just disappears beyond. And then I can center myself more in the center. And I can even do it with Albert's. I can go back to Albert's track and I can lower him down a tiny bit. But then, oh, look, it cuts him off at the top. So again, I'm kind of hampered by where the video kind of cuts us off. So I want to make it fit as best I can within the masked circle mask that I put them in. All right, so now those are set, and you can see now my audio has rendered down below. It takes about a good 2 to 4 minutes before your audio waves start to show up. At least it does on mine. And you can see here I have three little blips on my track. This is my count in. I already know when I see this pattern that this is me doing the count in. So if I skip past one, and then I kind of go, oh, wait a minute, something's not working. La da 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 da. Then I come back and I do it again because I realized I have a sign outside my door that says recording and it lights up. I forgot to turn it on, so I had my husband check it. So I did another count in of 3, 2, 1. And there we are. This is the start of our actual recording. So I will leave my playhead here. And if you notice, the movie file back here is all funky and weird. You can still see the title card back here. And that is because if we go down to the bottom, oh, look, they're stacked one on top of the other. So I've got to fix this issue. So because this is my count in, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change from my pointing tool to my actual blade, which is my cutting tool. And I'm going to cut here, go up to where Albert and I are and cut and cut. And then I'm going to select all three of those. And the easiest way to do it rather than scrolling through the videos portion, all three audio tracks sit right on top of each other. So I just select the three audio tracks and delete, and now they're not here and the movie file is not here. So what do? Because I know this is my starting out my intro, I will actually grab all 3 files and I will drag them forward until I get again to that green marker that I've set for myself where I want us to fly in. Voila. Now, the nice thing about that I like better in DaVinci than I did in Final Cut or Premiere, and admittedly, I have not used them in a few years, so they may have addressed this in an easy way. But one thing I do love about um, DaVinci is the ability to actually set the fade ins by just pulling in these handles that are in the corners of each one of the tracks. So it allows me to do a simple fade in, like so, by just dragging these handles out, and it actually shows the actual fade in amount. And I can do it to, like in this case, I did it to 1 second. So it's 24 frames per second, which is standard for movies. Television's typically 30 frames, but if you're running at 24, it's not too much of a difference. So I have it running at 24. That's what the timeline's built for, and it's mostly for the movies. But I do show the videos for the TV series, yeah, at that speed because I want the whole thing to be at one speed in this case. So, but I pull it out to 1 second. So I go 24 frames in because that equals 1 second on both the fade ins. So it's a 1 second fade in. Hey, everybody, welcome back. And I start talking, and you should be able to hear what I'm saying down below. Let's see, I think you were hearing it. So that's kind of how that part of it works. Now, if you notice, the movie file was showing down below, and I don't necessarily want it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll over till I see in the movie audio track where the audio starts to happen. I'm going to scroll. Evidently, I did a big intro on this one. I blabbed for a good, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. And Albert talks and I talk some more, and then it goes quiet for a second. And let's see, is this where yeah, okay, the show begins here. So I need to find where that happens. I know the episode starts in a very quiet mode. You just have to figure out where it starts. Okay, it looks like it's right around here. Yeah, because I'm adjusting the video. Okay, so I'll take this and I will put it in position. Put those basically center on that hollowed out screen area, and I know I'm pretty much spot on, but I'm obviously cropping areas on either side because the video image display of the actual episode is bigger than the space I have available for it. So I'm going to have to size it down just a little bit to get more of the actual picture in there. Now, I don't know if you can see, I'm actually going to turn off the ellipse. I don't know if you can see here, but over here, just above my circle, there's this white box. Well, that's Albert's white box. On that level, it's showing. So what I want to do is I'm going to want to adjust that by cropping in. And if I go to cropping and I go to, he is on my right side. So I want to crop the right side. I move it in and I slide this little slider over till voila, the little white space, see it there? Well, it's kind of muted white because it's got a vignette over it. That's what that adjustment clip is. So I covered that in so that I could see that I am not going to accidentally show Albert or myself on that side of the video that's coming through. Now I can turn the rainbow frame back on, and voila, you can't really tell that it's been cropped. So that's kind of where I'm going to start. Let me see when I press the button. Okay, it's here. All right, it's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut here. And I'm going to select, go back to my arrow tool. I'm going to select that, get rid of it. And then I am going to have to adjust all these layers that provide this um, rainbow ellipse, the bar, the copyright, all that stuff. I'm going to have to adjust it so that it comes in and turns on when the movie or the episode starts. So in order to do that, I got to come back out here to where they begin. And I talked a hell of a long time in this one, so I got to go quite a ways out. And I want to select these and I want to drag them over to where the movie file begins. And I want to make sure that these all fade in as well. So I bring it over and I mark this to 1 second there. 1 second. And this is going to vary because, my um, discussions with Albert pre-show, pre-reaction are going to vary. They're not going to be the same. So I kind of guesstimated where I would start talking, um, and in with every episode reaction, it could be different. I could have quite a bit to say before we start, or I may not have much to say at all. Um, let me get this one going. This one's a tad different because it has an animation built in the front of it. So I want to make sure I get the front. I don't just trim it. I actually want to move it. Come on. Actually, I can make it smaller so that I can move it faster. Here, I can grab it here and just drag it over. Okay. So now what's going to happen is that, and I will use the four color. So now everything will fade in at the same time when the episode starts to play. And now you will see how it all comes together with our conversation. We're still talking. I have to make sure that I have the ducker turned on, otherwise the sound of the episode will be too loud against Albert and myself. So I go over here, I select uh, the ducking channel for the audio, and I say, actually, I select the channel. Yeah, the channel itself and say ducker. Then I add myself and I add Albert, and I will say the duck level is all the way down. So I want to turn it all the way down so that you can hear Albert and I over everything else. This also helps with the copyright because it's the combination of the video and the audio that enables the copyright to be seen really easily. So by favoring video a bit more than audio, you tend to have a better chance of not slipping by copyright, because I'm not trying to do that, but it does have a bearing on whether or not your video gets flagged. So I'll just put that in bug in your ear. Then I have an advanced area where I'm going to tell it to look ahead in the audio track to make sure that I'm not speaking or Albert's not speaking and that it needs to do some ducking. I will tell it to hold for a longer period of time so that it doesn't automatic, because otherwise any brief pause in speaking, the volume will come way up on the movie or the episode track, and so you'll have this roller coaster audio going on. And so what I do is I tell it, hey, if there are brief pauses that are of this long of a period of time, look ahead, and if they're within this parameter, don't let the ducking stop. Just keep it going until you get one that matches the parameters I've just set here in the advanced area on this particular effect, to say if the silence is greater than what I have here in the parameters, then you can go ahead and bring the audio of the video back up again to normal sound. So that's kind of how the ducker works, and how you do it is by selecting the track itself, not the individual clips. So if I clicked on the clip here, you'll see I have no, under the options here, I have no ducker as part of how to duck the audio down so I can hear the other tracks over it. So you have to do it on a track level. So you click the track, and then this shows up, and it has other options you can do on a track level that also help you out as well. So this is the basics for setting up the reaction. The things that I do that make it slightly different is where I have the beginning of it. I have a green marker that shows the beginning of the episode. So as I'm editing, especially when I get to the YouTube part of it, where I have to cut it way down, I want to know where the beginning and end of the episode is. So now I'll go down here and I will scroll all the way over until the end of the episode when it goes back to just Albert and I talking. Let's see. Okay. Okay, you're not going to see this here. I need to turn off this layer so I can see what's going on. Okay, and you can see how the picture file is not, the proscenium is not pulled out for as long as I need it. So I need to grab it and drag it out so that I know it's showing. So now we're back to that again. And this is where, as I step through, if you can see here in these two tracks, actually, let me make them a little bigger so you can see them a little easier. Okay, if you can see here in these tracks, let me just look and see if anybody's sending me any questions. Okay, no. So you can see here in these tracks how they go from what is part of the episode, and then I cut it off because I just want to get to where Albert and I are talking, and then everything goes to this wonky where we're all misplaced again. That just tells me that I ended the video share, so I want to actually clip at that point where it changes. So there it is. This is with the episode still playing. Next frame, it's not. So this is where I want to trim out the movie portion. And I usually match up with us talking because they all are going to affect the same thing. Now, in the movie area, I will actually come down here and get rid of it because I have nothing really that plays in that area before. And I had, yeah, here's the at 12. Here we go. So now I have the title card set up again. So I will fade out the movie over 1 second and have this fade in. So it's kind of a crossfade between the two. So as we see, we come out of it. Okay, so thoughts? The one thing I love about this show is that they actually use real dancers. Now, I fixed the movie portion to go to the title card, but look what I have here. I still have some kind of chopped up version of myself being shown in both circles. Okay. So for Albert's, basically the easiest way to do this is just reset it to 0 because I know we're going on a 1-to-1. So boom, if I do that, I immediately get Albert in the right area and I can put him in, and the same for me. I click my track and then I say just reset all the settings, and boom, there I am, pretty close to where I need me to be. And then I just put myself back in position like so. So that's how I place those. And then what I do for my standard transition effect is I actually have what's called edgy, and I put those on. So what happens is we step through it. I'll put ourselves over here. You'll see that as I step through it, we just glow for a second and then boom, we're back. Okay. So now, in order to make this actually do something, I need to come back to the beginning and kind of match the same parameters here. Now, I do this in this order, and you'll see why in a second. Let me get back to the green marker. There we go. Okay, so this is where the first iteration of the change happens. So I want to change to my blade tool, and I chop those two. I don't need to do it down below because the movie already starts at that position. Okay, and actually, I want to fade that in over a minute. or a second. And I need to come over and grab and do the same crossfade here between the layers. So we should have.
Oh my God, this is such a wonderful surprise.
Yeah, I figured you'd like it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. So there we have a nice crossfade there. It makes it nice and clean. I've got the break here, so I come here and I do the edgy glow. Now, here we have, let me resize that so it matches the other one. 0.8, 80%. Actually, I'm going to bring that down a little more. So I want to get her face showing up. And so what? That's 66 and 214. So come over here and match it up so that looks the same. And what I'm talking about here is the coordinates. So 66% and 216. Looks like Albert moves a bit. That's the thing with Albert. He gets too uncomfortable in one position and he starts shifting in his chair, and it plays havoc with me trying to put him in a mask. Okay, so here we have it, and it looks like we don't move throughout the whole thing. But if you've been watching our channel and our reactions, you know that that's not the case. What I do, and the reason why I do it in this order, I have us in the same position for all three segments: the pre-show, well, actually for you doing on camera, the pre-show, the episode or movie reaction, and then the post thoughts, the final thoughts before we sign off. So I have the three segments. This middle segment, I usually make our circles slightly smaller and I bring them close to the actual screen that's being shown. So we're right there with the action. So how I do that is by doing all of this, my pre and post discussions are now set. I don't have to mess with them. They're done. So now I can come in here and I can actually change the position, the color, and all that stuff of this one here. So I tend to leave. Got the. I tend to leave the positioning, on the y-axis. It's the x that I want to change a bit. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. I want to change the y. I want to leave the x-axis. I want to leave it right where it is across the spectrum. It's the y-axis I want to change. So I will change Albert's first to 0.7. And you'll see that the mask moves, but he hasn't yet. I'll fix that in a second. And I also want to make it 0.85% of the 100% from down below. This is how it makes it slightly smaller. Then I go over to the video area and I just change the y-axis of his positioning so that he sits inside of the round circle mask. Same for me. I come over to the effects. I change the y-axis, the same numbers, 0.7 for the y-axis, and then the size of the circle is 0.85, and it's basically 85% of a full 100% mass circle. That's what the 0.85 is for. Then go back to video, and I just change the y positioning so I can fill up the, and I might want to scooch things over, just modify it. So now when we go from here to here, you're going to see Albert has already moved again. So he moves from side to side and stuff, and I've just given up trying to constantly keep him in the thing. So here's what happens when we go for that. You'll see now the change, boom, and now we go to full size and we're down below. So that's the exit from it when we do the full discussion at the end. And then come back to the beginning, and you can see how we go from the beginning.
Oh, this is such a wonderful surprise.
Yeah, I figured
Voila.
you'd like it.
Oh my God.
And now we're up
wait.
in our positions like you normally see us. So that's how I end up putting that part of it together. Now, a few things left that I got to do before I can render this out as a file for Patreon, which is what I do first. I first create it for Patreon, and then um, oh, I want to move this as well. Need to move this to where the episode really ends because I want to know that when I go to do the YouTube edit. All right, coming up on it because here's the credits. Yep, there we go. All right, so there's the end of the episode. So I at least have marked. And if you see on my timeline up here, I have a green one marked over here where the playhead currently is. If I move the playhead, you'll see I have a green marker here of where the episode is actually beginning. Everything before that is our pre show talk. And then I have the red marker way out here, which is where the episode ends. And I know anything here to the very end of the timeline is our post show or post reaction discussion. So it kind of separates in my head. When I look at it, I immediately know where those positions are and I know where I am in the three segments of the show. Okay. Now, the thing that I need to adjust is I need to look at how long is the discussion. So I'm going to actually shrink the timeline so I can see it at a kind of a higher level view. And if you see here, I've got three. These are my closeouts, but I got to put them after. There, they're lined up. Okay, this is a fairly healthy, long discussion area. So usually what I do is I will run this about 2/3 of the way and put the rest behind it. So I will come out here and I will mark this where this ends. I will mark it with a pink marker, which tells me that's where I want the curtains to close on everything behind it. So now I come up here where the curtain layer is and I will turn it back on and I will select it and slide it over so that it lines up with the very end of the show. But I want this transition to sit right where this pink marker is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually slide it over till there when it snaps. Then I will go out to the very end and I will pull the end in so that it matches the end of the episode itself, the end of the reaction. So now I will make this 1 second and 1 second. So now everything should fade out. Trust me, there's drama and fun to be had.
Oh
So
my god.
keep watching those movies with family and friends. And Albert and I will catch up with again with you real soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, and there's the fade out. Then it goes to our title roll at the end. And then I need to put in the audio for the closings because they got obliterated. This is what sometimes happens when you have the audio. I've preset, and if you saw, I have these three little clips here. Well, they have audio that's attached to them, but because the movie file or the episode file ran to the very end here, it overwrote all of the audio that was out there. So I just have to go back and grab the audio and put it on the outro track so I can get it. So let's see. I have to go to the closing elements. And the first one is the women. And we have a reaction to that up on Patreon. You definitely need to check that out. Uh, let's see. Put that there. And then I have our SAG roll production credit. Come on. There we go. Now they're lined up. And then usually what I have for bring that down around 10, and then that's usually good there because that track is the auto ducking. So it will listen for us talking and keep it low while we're finishing our conversation. Then the other thing I have to do, this is the last step I have to do before I render it. And we're coming to the end of the editing session for this episode, as I have somewhere over here, at least I did. Well. Oh, huh. Did I lose it? Okay, I guess I did. Okay, so we have what we call the Charlie wave, which is from Heartstopper. So let me grab those and bring them out here. Um, Take care. Yeah, that's the Charlie wave. Slide. There we go. And then I want to move them both over. So Charlie's in the middle. Let's put a drop shadow on him. There we go. Real soon. Take care. And I usually like to put him when Albert and I do our wave.
Bye.
There we go. So that's the Charlie wave out. So that's basically the edit in its entirety. Hopefully, if you like what you see here and you want to see how I do a movie one, but it's basically along the same lines. Didn't realize my hat was falling off. It's basically along the same lines. It's just segmenting out the three separate areas: the pre-talk, the reaction, and then the post-talk. So it's that kind of layout, and you're just really segmenting the files. But do the homework beforehand and think about how you want it visually to present at some point between what you're showing and what you're showing behind the scenes and what you're allowing to be seen needs to have a pivot point if you're going to do it like we do it, where we put it in a theatrical setting. Now, if you're all doing a reaction and you're all just sitting in the living room, have at it. Much easier, much more conducive to just quick editing and in and out. And that you can definitely do that. That's fine. Since Albert and I are in completely different locations, I have to think of it from a more I don't want to say necessarily professional, but I have to think of it more from a how do I structure this so that it's familiar to people, it's easy for people to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and still be able to get everything across. So that's it. That's basically my setup. We are now at a minute and an hour and 30 seconds, so not quite 2 hours. I seem to still be broadcasting at a standard level. So who knows? Maybe this one will actually fly the way it was supposed to. So if you have any questions, if you want to ask me other questions about the actual edit, because all I do after this point is I just go to the deliver page. I'll show you that quickly here. I go to the deliver page and basically I just tell it where I want it to save. I say I already have presets set up to actually for things that I do on my own. I basically did the configuration here in this panel, and then I just told it to save it as a preset by coming up here and I say save as new preset, and I just create the presets that I want to have. So this is my own export presets that I've created, parameters, if you will, of how to render the file. And then it just goes through and it just renders the file. I have it so where the audio actually is going through a normalization track. So, like if I select this and say I want to do it for my Patreon at 24 frames per second, I already have it all set up so that the audio will come out ACC and it has all the parameters set up. It also will check the normalization for YouTube. I actually tell it what standard to use for the normalization of audio. So everything is within the parameters YouTube likes for its audio quality. So I have that set up. In the video portion, I already have it set up so that I'm doing it H.265 compression, and I restrict it to about 80,000 kilobits per second. I'm using encoding profile main 10, so it's a 265 main 10. So it's 422-10, I think is how it's the code that it's actually the codec that it's using, the encoding profile. I have a color spaces set to Rec 709 and Rec 709A for the tag. You can actually set up the subtitles, and I can do that in a separate video because there are different ways of doing it, how you want to do it. So I'm not going to show it in this video, but there are ways that you can actually, if you don't know where the subtitles are, and there is a website called Open Subtitles. Or wait a minute, did they change it? Maybe it's, yeah, I think it's Open Subtitles. It's either Open Subtitles or Subscene, or there's several of them. Just search for SRT um, uh, closed caption titles for movies. And there are certain sites that come up that actually collect these and actually have them available for people to download. So you can download those and then sync them on a track for closed captioning and sync it to the film. So that way, even if the audio ducks down, people can read what's going on, what's on the screen, but they're not able to hear it because you're talking and commenting over it. So that's another way of kind of meeting the gap in ducking when you try to bring the audio down so you can be heard over whatever's happening in the film or the episode. So that's another way to play that game. And you can either go to these websites and download the actual closed caption files, the SRTs, from these websites, and then just figure out where it lines up on your timeline and place that in there, and then you'll be all set. And then you can either export them by burning them into the video, or you can export it as an SRT file that you can then upload with the new timings. And you want to place it on your timeline where it appears, because if you have any talking before or after, that SRT file that you downloaded is not going to know to make those adjustments in time. So you need to actually import the SRT, put it on your timeline, make sure it matches up to the speaking voices within the video that you're putting the SRT in for, and then render that out and say export a new SRT file with the new time settings of where you've placed it on your timeline. Then you'll get a synced up file, and then when you upload it, you just upload your video and do your uploads to YouTube like you would normally do. And there are tons of videos out there that show you how to do that. So I'm not going to cover that in this video, but you can definitely upload it there. And then one of the options, I think it's in the second step during your upload, there is an option to upload subtitles. You just say add subtitle, you point to your file, and you'll see SRT with timing because it has the time codes. You've put them in your timeline, so it has new time codes. So say SRT with timing, and you click that and you upload your file, and it will place it exactly in your movie just like it is in your timeline in DaVinci Resolve or whatever NLE editor that you're using. So that's basically the setup. I will render this baby out, and it will be going up on Patreon very shortly. So that's it for my little demonstration. If you were able to make it and watch it, I highly thank you for it. If you want me to do something like this again with more details, like how to create an intro or how to do outro stuff, how to do some of the other things that I've put together that I use on our episode, let me know. I'll be happy to kind of set that up and people can hopefully get something from it. Okay. So that's it for this time around. Again, if you were not able to make it, don't feel bad. I will put it up as a recast. I realized that this announcement was rather short notice. Next time I do something like this, I will actually broadcast it ahead of time and put it up on both our community post page, and I'll put it up on Patreon so people know that it exists. All right. Until next time, keep watching those movies with found family and friends, and I will catch up again with you real soon. I'll be back on Rope Podcast live spotlight from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, U.S. California time zone. And I'll be there for 2 hours to talk about things that are pertinent to our community and public politics and all that kind of stuff. Just to have a discussion about that. So you can definitely join me for that at twitch.tv/Rope Podcast or here on YouTube at Rope Podcast. All right. Have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.